Thanks for joining us. My name is Cherise Melzer. I'm with Keller Williams Coastal Area Partners in Savannah. And this is Jordan Culver. She is with Weissman Law in beautiful Savannah, Georgia. With Valentine's coming up, I thought it was a great time for today's topic. And whether your romance is beginning to bud or it has just totally blown in the wind, Jordan has great advice on how you can safeguard your real estate assets, even if you can't safeguard your heart. Thanks for joining us, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why does real estate become one of the most complex assets in divorce?
Real estate is certainly one of the largest investments one can make in their life. So there could be a lot of debts tied up to it. There's a big financial consideration there. There's also a lot of emotional attachments to properties. It's not always going to be easily divisible between two parties, and the value and equity of it could be up for debate. So there's a lot of different reasons why real estate can be a complex subject when it comes to divorce.
What happens when both spouses are on a deed, but one spouse doesn't want to sell?
So that can get a little tricky. First and foremost, if both spouses are on the deed, both have to sign a deed to transfer title. One cannot unilaterally do so without the other.
Can a home be sold if one of the spouses refuse?
That kind of depends. So like I said, if there are two spouses on the deed, then both will have to sign off on it. There could be a court order that is involved where the court orders that the property be sold, and that could kind of override one's reluctance to do so.
What legal steps are required if one of the spouses wants to keep the home?
So there are a couple options here. There could be a mutual agreement. There could be a negotiation of a buyout where the title is transferred to one spouse. That also could involve perhaps a refinance. There could also be a court order that determines who gets the property in the end, whether that's an order during the pendency of the litigation or a part of the final decree.
In Georgia, how is the equity usually divided in a divorce in a home?
Again, it can depend. We have seen situations where it could be by mutual agreement 50-50. It could be that the court orders it to be 50-50, maybe 60-40. Just kind of, it depends on whether it is part of the marital estate or separate property. And additionally, we've seen situations where if a house is sold while the litigation is still ongoing, but the court has granted an order permitting the sale, then the proceeds could be held in the registry or the court, or held with one of the divorce attorneys before the proceeds are actually split amongst the spouses.
How does divorce affect the timeline of selling a home?
This varies greatly. So if there is a mutual agreement or a court order granting that the sale occur, there may be little to no effect on a timeline of just your general sale of property. Now, if it is a contentious divorce where you're at the discretion of the courts, it could take much longer. Usually with divorces here in Georgia, we have a law that requires that there be no significant change to the marital assets prior to a final determination by the court. And what that sometimes looks like is either standing orders with each court, ordering the couples not to sell or purchase property during that time. And one of the attorneys might file a lis pendens. What that is kind of like a red flag on the property. So if the property is up for sale, it alerts potential buyers that, hey, this property is currently part of the discussion with ongoing litigation, and it kind of puts a stop on the timeline of when that house can be sold until you get a final determination from the court.
What financial or legal risk should sellers watch out for with selling a home?
There's certainly a lot. You definitely don't want to sell unless there is a clear agreement, whether that's a mutual agreement or a final decree from the court. You don't want to violate a court order, but there could also be disputes over the sale proceeds, how the mortgage and credit are split, whether you have some credit factors to consider. And then there could also be some title and lien issues. There's a variety of different things that could come up for divorcing sellers.
What risks come with purchasing a property when you're still going through a divorce?
Well, there's a lot. For one, again, you don't want to violate a court's order, and you don't want to materially alter the assets of the estate. If you purchase property while you're still married, that property could become part of the marital estate and subject to division. So you have to be very careful about the purchasing of property, whether you're using marital funds, how that might affect your credit. And it's always best to talk with your divorce attorney and your real estate attorney about the potential risks.
What documents or legal protections should a seller have in place?
Either you want to have your mutual agreement, settlement agreement between the parties, or you want to have the final divorce decree from the court ensuring that your closing attorney is assisting in the sale pursuant to the terms of the agreement and not violating any specific term.
What are the biggest real estate mistakes people make during a divorce?
I would say the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that the home situation or property situation will just sort itself out, or if they purchase with their own funds, that it's going to be completely separate property. There is an analysis that divorce attorneys and courts review to determine whether something is marital or separate property. So I would never just assume that the property situation will sort itself out, and it's very important to discuss in detail with your divorce attorney and real estate attorneys.
How can working with both a realtor and an attorney help protect clients?
Working with an attorney and a realtor can help you figure out what the projected timeline looks like, whether you're buying or selling. And it can also help you understand all the legal risks and other financial complications that may arise, in addition to what documents you're going to need to have in place in order to buy or sell property.
In one sentence, what is your best tip to help navigate someone going through a divorce?
Be as transparent as possible with your attorneys and your agents regarding your desires and wishes with property when it comes to the divorce itself.
Thank you so much, Jordan. It was so nice having you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, but if you have further questions, you can still contact Jordan. Thank you for watching.